No question, we can feel good about this Lions team here on a Victory Monday.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is a Victory Monday right here on Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network here on a Monday, November 10th into Tuesday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day and happy Veterans Weekend to everybody. Tomorrow will be Veterans Day, actually, but great to have you with us following a Lions victory yesterday. As we talked about yesterday, we could talk about again today. Lions take care of the Washington Commanders and did so with ease, 44-22. Locked On Lions today brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Thanks for finding us wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for those of you that subscribe on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. And of course, got to shout out our everydayers, our listeners that either watch the podcast or listen to the podcast daily. We appreciate all of you. All right. We can take a deep breath. We can breathe a little bit. The Lions are 6-3. Lions went into DC and took care of business yesterday. And yes, Dan Campbell called the plays. All right. So the Johnny Morton hate, the fire the offensive coordinator talk, all the stuff that becomes bluster after this team loses. And a lot of it is because the expectations have been raised, and that's okay. Dan Campbell is riding the ship. Dan Campbell is steering this ship. And whether next week he decides, and I'm recording this about 2:00 on a Monday, whether he decides to allow John Morton to call the plays this week or change things up again, regardless of whatever Dan Campbell decides to do with the offense, you trust whatever he decides to do. Maybe this was just a 1 week thing. Maybe Morton goes back to calling plays on Sunday night against the Eagles. Maybe Dan's calling them again the rest of the year. I don't believe, and Justin Rogers wrote this on Detroit Football Network, I don't believe this is going to be an Anthony Lynn type situation where in Campbell's first season, he strips his OC of play calling duties right around the same time the first year. And you just kind of knew that Anthony Lynn was sort of castrated and going to be gone after 1 year. Lions, of course, then elevated Ben Johnson. We knew about the 3 years that Johnson had his run as OC. It was phenomenal. All right. John Morton was brought back for a reason. Familiarity. The guys liked him. Jared Goff certainly endorsed it. And now, yes, he has had his play calling duty stripped at least for one game. And I'm guessing more. But as Campbell said yesterday, he and Morton decided this and talked about it on Monday after the loss to the Vikings. Something needed to be tweaked. Something needed to be changed. And it's not like the Lions offense, which was scoring 30 points per game, was down to scoring 0 a game over those last 3 games where there's two losses, the Kansas City game and the Minnesota game. The Lions were still averaging nearly 22 a game. But Dan Campbell knows what Campbell and this team knows what they're shooting for. This is not we're going to be good every year and win 8 or 9 games and 10 games and get into the playoffs and sell a bunch of tickets. No. Is we will not be satisfied until we bring this fan base a Super Bowl and the Lombardi Trophy. And they've built this thing from 3 wins to 9 wins to 12 wins to 15 wins. And this year might be a little bit less based upon the schedule and everything, but still, when the Lions lose a game, we all go crazy. We all go, what is going? We're not used to it. We're used to tasting success these past couple of years. And so yesterday stamped it again that this is Dan Campbell's football team, that he calls the shots. Yes, Jared Goff has a hand in some of this. And yes, there's other players that have leadership and they've got great veterans here with this team. Fix my microphone here. There we go. But the bottom line is that this team, they go as he goes. And Dan sat down with Morton, and I'm sure maybe we'll hear from Morton on Thursday. Crossover Thursday, by the way, coming up to get ready for the Eagles game. We're going to try to track down Ross Tucker this week, Ross Tucker Football Podcast on CBS, who's based in Philly. We'll do all that later in the week. But the bottom line is, I just love the fact that Dan wasn't messing around after what happened last week. And he said, we need to do something on offense. And he called the plays. And yes, John Morton had a hand in it. And yes, Hank Fraley had a hand in it. And yes, Jared Goff had a hand in it. And Scotty Montgomery and all the coaches. But everybody seemed to respond to that decision. And it worked, and they won. Now, does it help? All right, hand up. Does it help that they faced a disgusting and disgraceful Commanders front? I mean, their defensive line's terrible. It was so bad yesterday that Duron Payne, arguably their best interior tackle there, got ejected for throwing a punch at Amon Ra St. Brown and landing it. Javon Kinlaw said after the game that St. Brown punched Payne first on a play, a couple of plays before that on a run play. And if you watch some of the video, was blocking on a dive play with Gibbs. He got knocked to the ground, and there was a scuffle that ensued on the ground. Fox cameras, and again, that Fox crew yesterday was all terrible, whether it was the producer, the director, the announcers. Exactly what the scuffle was, but there was the clock had stopped. The referees break up something that was going on with St. Brown, and then plays later after the touchdown, as St. Brown is coming off the field, Duron Payne cold cocks him in the side of the head, side of the neck, and gets ejected and gets a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. St. Brown's going to get under your skin. Amon Ra is a pest. He just is. He's a great football player, and he's a pest. All right? You'd hate him if he was on another team. You love him that he's on ours. But the Lions ran down the throats of that Commanders D-line. Then Payne goes out. Kinlaw's jaw-jacking with Goff. There was another unsportsmanlike call later in the game on the Commanders. That will not be the case this Sunday. The Lions are playing, of course, Sunday night. Tirico, Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, and the NBC crew. And Philadelphia brings Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and some damn good players on that defensive line. They're going to be coming right at Jared Goff. So last night or yesterday was a bit of a JV team that they played. That Commanders team is banged up. They don't have Jaden Daniels. They're struggling. The Eagles are the real deal. But at least for today, we can look back and watch the tape, watch the highlights, and see that an Awoshika, a Glasgow, the guys up front, there weren't a lot of missed assignments. It was good communication. They seemed to be on the same page. The plays were crisp and fast. Play action, guys in motion, jet screen, a jet run, all those things, jet sweep, all of that were in the arsenal of Dan Campbell yesterday, and it worked. And you feel good again. And you look up and you see Jared Goff. I saw this stat today. Goff had a rough performance 2 weeks ago against the Vikings. The only quarterbacks in NFL history to complete at least 74% of their passes, produce 20-plus passing touchdowns, and have 3 or few interceptions through the first 3 games of any season in NFL history. Drew Brees, 2018. Jared Goff, 2025. When Goff throws a pick, we all go, oh, there's Goff again. Doesn't do it. He's got 22 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. When he's protected and the calls are there and everybody's communicating and the weapons are weaponing, all right, the Lions are absolutely deadly. And they beat up on a bad Commanders defense yesterday. It'll be a bigger test this week, but you feel good going into Philly knowing the Lions offense this past Sunday looked like the offense we expect. There's so many good players there. And you know what else was great? Panay Sewell had to leave the game. Dan Skipper comes in, does a nice job. Graham Glasgow gets hurt. Tristan Colon comes in. Colon is how you pronounce his last name, not Colon, Vilma. And he did. And we're going to have the PFF grades coming up momentarily. Talk about stock up and stock down with one player on each side of the ball. Awashika had a grade of 73.6. Glasgow, 78. Much better than last week when grades for the interior defensive linemen were in the 30s and 40s when it comes to PFF. So it was great to watch this team get into rhythm again. And now they sit at 6-3. See what the Packers do tonight. Certainly the Vikings were horrible yesterday against Baltimore. Boy, J.J. McCarthy was a different quarterback yesterday. And in the Bay and in Chicago, they're building a statue for Caleb Williams. But Bears have won 6 of 7 and now sit at 6-3, same as the Lions. So you got to tip your cap to what Ben Johnson is doing there in Chicago. All right, more coming up next. PFF grades. What did Pro Football Focus think of this Lions performance on offense and defense? We do it every Monday, and we'll do it next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Always love those Alex Toussaint resets for my friend Lauren McMichael. She loves her Alex Toussaint. All right, Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams. And some don't work all well together. That's not SaaS. That's SAD, meaning software as a disservice, right? That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, their data, and everything. You want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. Right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm back on Locked On Lions. Matt Dery with you. It is a Monday edition Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Lions victorious yesterday over the Commanders. No problem beating up on Washington 44-22. Yes, I predicted 41-21. So I was pretty close with my prediction. I'll probably completely butcher this Sunday's, but we'll see. Lions got to go to Philly to face the Eagles. We're playing very good football. And tonight, Philly, I should say, is at Green Bay. Monday Night Football, big matchup with the Eagles and the Packers. So we root for the Eagles tonight. And then, of course, we root against them. Jalen. Very old man yesterday or last night. Man, that was a bad performance. Chargers look good for sure. Anybody ever hear Justin Herbert get interviewed? He says nothing. How you feeling? Good. Big win. Yeah. It's crazy. All right. PFF grades. Let's get to them. Pro Football Focus. We do it every Monday. The top 5 and bottom 5 Lion performers from yesterday's win over the Washington Commanders. Top 5. Let's go 5-1. 5th highest graded player yesterday in the Lions win over Washington, Jameson Williams. J-Mo over 100 yards receiving. The touchdown, the flip into the end zone. An 82 grade for J-Mo. Great to have him back and in the swing of things. Khalif Raymond, 82.3. Penei Sewell, third highest grade, 83.3. Seems like he's in the 80s and 90s every week. Jared Goff had a huge game with the 3 touchdowns. 90.3 grade for Goff. And Jahmyr Gibbs, who I want to bring up and stock up, stock down in a minute. 93.7 grade for Gibbs, over 170 yards of total offense yesterday. Who did not perform well for the Lions yesterday on offense? Bottom 5. I'm going to give it a minimum. You had to play double-digit snaps in this game. So we're going to go with Taylor Decker at 66.4, was the 5th lowest. Isaac Teslaw, 4th lowest, 65.1. Tristan Colon played 19 snaps, 63.8. David Montgomery, just a 56.3. Not terrible, by the way. And Brock Wright finished with the lowest grade at a 55.8 on offense. So those were the the top 5 and bottom 5 on offense from yesterday. On defense, let's go with the best here. Top 5. 5th highest grade, Jack Campbell, 69.6. Huge stop on that second 2-point conversion. Arthur Mollett, yes, 70.8. 3rd highest. Alex Anzalone, Gaines Media Zone, 74.4. Terrion Arnold, 24 snaps, 89.2. We'll have an update on his injury status tomorrow. And Roy Lopez, 12 snaps, but very effective. 89.6 grade for the veteran defensive tackle. As far as the lowest graded Lions on defense, how about this? For the first time, I would say in a couple of years, Aiden Hutchinson, 53.2, makes the bottom 5. Al-Qadim Muhammad, 47.1. DJ Reader, third lowest, 46.9. Aleem McNeil, 2nd lowest grade at a 45.4. And the worst of the lot, Avonte Maddox, he played 22 snaps, filling in at both safety and corner, 38.1. Those were your top 5 and bottom 5 Lions on offense and defense. By the way, my buddy Al asked me to look this up. The 2 lowest graded Commanders, no surprise. Duron Payne, he of the cheap shot and punch and ejection, 27.5. And Javon Kinlaw, maybe the most overpaid player in the league, 33.6. Both of those defensive tackles had their lunches handed to them by the Lions. Those were your 2 worst Commander players yesterday. Now, as far as stock up and stock down on the Lions, I want to make a point about 2 players here. Stock up is Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. And look, it can't get much better than what Gibbs did yesterday. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air. I just told you his grade was over a 90, highest graded Lion player. He's a special talent. And Lions put this out yesterday, and I got to find it. Jahmyr Gibbs yesterday. Think about this for a second. All right. I'm going to find it. Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs stat. I had it here, and of course I lost it. I know it's here. Jahmyr Gibbs has topped 4,100 scrimmage yards and 41 touchdowns through the first 41 games of his career. There's only 7 players in the NFL history that have ever done this. Arian Foster, Larry Johnson, Marcus Allen, Eric Dickerson, Earl Campbell, Chuck Foreman, and now Jahmyr Gibbs. He just continues to put up incredible numbers. 3rd running back in franchise history to produce multiple 3-touchdown games, joining Barry Sanders, who did it 7 times, and touchdown Tommy Vardell, who did it twice. This guy is special. And we got on Brad Holmes at the trade deadline about not doing anything. And some people are like, oh, Brad Holmes doesn't do this. Brad Holmes doesn't do that. Brad Holmes drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the 1st round a couple years ago. And yours truly and others went ballistic. And what a mistake it was. This kid is a special talent. And the Lions have had some unbelievable running backs. All right. Hall of Fame running backs in this franchise, including the likes of Barry, Billy Sims, whatever. But man, is Jahmyr Gibbs good. and his stock is up again. And they got him the football yesterday, and they did it in different ways. I love that pitch play out of the shotgun with Sewell pulling out. There were some great play designs yesterday. Stock down. We've got to talk about the Lions. Do you guys realize the Lions had a first-round pick last year? Tyleik Williams, his name has not been called, it seems like, in weeks. And yesterday, he only played 8 snaps, and Roy Lopez played 12. So I told you the night of the weekend of the draft, once it was over, that Monday after the draft, all 7 rounds in the books, I said, Tate Ratledge, despite being the second-round pick, is going to have the biggest impact of this draft class. I just knew it. Tyleik Williams is just not playing. Now Lee McNeil is back. You got DJ Reader. Roy Lopez played good football yesterday to the tune of the highest graded defensive player. So they've got to get Tyleik Williams back up and running a little bit here. I'm going to have to kind of rewind some film and watch specifically what he's not doing or is doing, or maybe it's just a numbers game right now. And because Reader and McNeil are veterans and they're playing so well, although Aleem and DJ had 2 of the lower grades yesterday for the Lions. Tyleik Williams, by the way, 8 snaps, 6 against the run, 2 against the pass, and a 52.1 grade. Tough to really decipher out of 8 snaps, but that's a first-round pick that's not playing much. All right, I can't wait for this weekend. This is going to be some game. And let's do a little early preview of it coming up next here on Locked On Lions. Lions and Eagles coming up this Sunday is going to be awesome. But first, Locked On Lions are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NBA is back. No better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. How about the Pistons? They are playing unbelievable basketball. I know it's November. I know some of you haven't paid attention yet. Cade Cunningham is having an MVP couple weeks here. He's awesome. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel got a great offer going. They're going to give new wins. That's right. Put down $5, you could win $300. Go get $300 for free. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so the Lions are going to face the defending Super Bowl champions this Sunday night under the lights in Philly, raucous crowd, Detroit and the Eagles facing off in what could be a playoff preview. And by the way, before we talk about the Eagles, I'm going to do something I did a couple of years ago. I'm going to do it early. Watch out. I know the Lions are playing the Rams in December in Los Angeles. Jared Goff returns to SoFi, all these things. Well, he's already been back, but you know what I mean. Watch out for another Matthew Stafford trip to Ford Field in the playoffs. Just keep an eye on it. I know we've had a couple of these already, including the playoff game and then week 1 the next year and all that stuff. But could we see a hat trick? Could we see one more time that Padford makes his way back to town? Have you looked at his numbers the last 3 games? I think he's got 13 touchdowns and 0 picks. He is playing out of his mind. Just keep that in mind that we could see number 9 one last time at Ford Field. With that being said, Sunday night is going to be awesome because and Collinsworth brought this up last night on the post game after the Charger Steeler game on NBC, but he said next Sunday night, what he's most excited about, the Lions and Eagles play physical football. They want to maul you. Yes, there's guys on the outside. You got Amon Ra, and you got and you got Laporta. And for the Eagles, they've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But these two teams want to take their offensive line and drive you back and put you away. And that's what the Lions did yesterday, and that's what the Eagles are starting to do again. They got a big game again tonight against Green Bay. But man, I am just so pumped for this game Sunday night because it's been two of the best teams in the NFC, or maybe the two best teams in the NFC the last 2 or 3 years. And last year, because the Lions, just absolutely wet their pants in that Commanders game in the playoffs, we didn't get to see what everybody wanted to see, which was the NFC Championship game at Ford Field and Philadelphia coming to town. Now we get that opportunity this Sunday night, albeit on the road for Detroit, but I love the way the Lions go in and play teams on the road. I think that there are times the Lions play better to me on the road. They were perfect on the road last year. So Detroit going to Philly Sunday night is just going to be awesome to watch. And I know Saquon's not having the year he had last year. I know that Devontae Smith's having a better year than he had last year. And you look at what the Eagles bring to the table with the DBs that they have and the guys up front and everything else. Brandon Graham back out of retirement, coming back to Detroit. Man, I'm just so excited for this game. And look, we're going to get a chance to kind of scout tonight on Monday Night Football and see what the Eagles, bring to the table at Lambeau Field, which is never an easy place to play. And Green Bay, off a bad loss last week, is going to try to redeem themselves. But doesn't get much better than Nick Sirianni, Hurts, that Eagles team against this Lions team, kind of head-to-head, physical. They want to run Saquon. The Lions want to run Jameer and David Montgomery. Both teams use the tight end well. Eagles with the tush push, all sorts of angles. It's going to be so much fun next weekend, and I cannot wait. Sunday night, 8:20 for Detroit and Philly. And the Lions have a little bit of a scheduling advantage here with the Eagles having a short week, having to play tonight and then come back from Green Bay. All right, we're back with a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Hopefully Ross Tucker this week. We'll have the crossover on Thursday. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody. And again, Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. It is.